Jen yields back, and I want to thank you all for your testimony. We'll now move into the question-answer portion of the hearing, and I'll begin questioning and recognize myself for 5 minutes. From gasoline to groceries, everything's more expensive under the Biden-Harris administration. Republican members of the subcommittee have been sounding the alarm. Record high energy prices, record high housing costs, record high credit card debt. We've explored these issues in depth with individual hearings, and we're going to delve more into it today. So, Ms. Onwuka, persistent inflation and record high energy prices are hurting families and businesses, and it's placing an even heavier burden on low-income and rural households. Do you believe that the Biden-Harris administration's policies are to blame?
Thank you for your question. I do. I do believe that the Biden-Harris administration, from the start of their administration, have implemented fiscal and economic policies that have certainly driven, and energy policies that have led inflation to skyrocket to what it was. Let's not forget that the American Rescue Plan Act, passed in 2021, mid-2020 to 2021. We had economic Obama administration economists like Larry Summers warning that this would touch off generation high inflation. We often hear that inflation was driven by Vladimir Putin invading Russia. That wasn't until 2022. But by mid-2021, inflation was already rising. And let's not forget that at the start of 2021, inflation was just 1.4%, well below the Federal Reserve's 2% rate, target rate. So when you're targeting economic policy, massive fiscal spending that continues, as well as the impact on energy, the policies around energy, that's going to have an impact, and I think that is continuing.
Yeah. You're an economist. Is it fair to say that increased government spending is a driver of inflation?
Absolutely, it tends to be, and let's not forget that when you introduce trillions of dollars of federal spending, the money has to come from somewhere, and that involves monetary policy, where you're literally printing money to support this federal spending. And so I think Americans are beginning to realize that injecting the economy with trillions of dollars of federal spending when the economy was already recovering. Jobs were already returning. Businesses, like these small businesses, were already trying to meet the demand, the supercharged demand. Inflation is the result of that. It was not the time for additional fiscal spending.
We've talked a lot about basically transportation fuels, input cost, but also the premature retirement of generation around the country and a push toward certain energy sources has driven utility cost up. Isn't that fair to say? For
Absolutely.
Americans?
As I mentioned, the increase in utility costs for households has been, remarkable. Over 50% in certain fuel costs, for example, or let's see here, 36% for heating oil, 32% for electricity, and natural gas up 25%. But altogether, the American household is not just weakened by inflation, it's also the high cost for borrowing, the high credit card bills, the high mortgage payments. All of this feeds into a weakened family financial position.
Yeah, thank you for that. Ms. Pryor, American farmers have faced unprecedented challenges over the last 4 years. You were very clear in your testimony due to rising energy costs and all the costs for input costs, transportation costs, et cetera. How does it feel to hear Vice President Harris and Democrat colleagues playing the blame on farmers and grocery stores for price gouging?
It's disheartening because we don't have any say over what a grocery store charges. And as I mentioned in my opening, our prices that we're paid for our crops have actually
You're told what someone would pay for your apples,
We are price takers,
right?
not price makers. The choice is take it or leave it, not what do you want your price to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. How do high electricity prices impact your farm?
So in North Carolina, one of the changes that has occurred is I'll tell you exactly the name, the North Carolina Renewable Energy Standard, which requires, so in our area, Duke Energy is our only option for power, that they meet up to 12% of their energy needs through renewable energy resources or energy efficient measures. What seemed like could be beneficial once they put that in place, and I opened my power bill, there was a renewable energy rider that was to compensate for that expense that they incurred to do that. So they're not making a profit off of that, but they're passing it on to the customers. So ends up costing the customer more for them to be able to meet that mandate.
Thank you for that. Mr. Fisher, real quickly, what's driving the 800% increase in PJM's capacity prices?
The short answer is supply and demand. Supply is being reduced by policies like I mentioned with the EPA shutting down significant swath of power plants. Demand's rising, and one sort of nerdy add-on to the question is that PJM finally right-sized the capacity contribution of intermittent resources. So all those changes together, we still need the power. It's growing, so prices are only going to go up.
Yeah, my time's expired. I'll now recognize the ranking member to get for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much.